Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espey.
Fastamai, good evening. It is Tuesday the 16th of July and this is your update of what's been happening on and from the Isle of Man today. Coming up in the next half hour, we'll bring you the latest from the inquest into the death of a serving prisoner, which today has heard an investigation found staff could not have foreseen he would take his own life. More details about that in a moment. We'll also find out how much it's costing the steam packet every month to use the new ferry terminal in Liverpool. The DOI responds to complaints following pothole repairs in Laxey, and it's happy birthday to the Gaiety Theatre. All that and much more before 5:30. As ever, you're welcome to get in touch. You can text 166 177. First, the latest news headlines with Siobhan.
Fastamai. An investigation into the death of serving prisoner found that staff could not have foreseen that he was going to take his own life. That's what the jury at the inquest of Christopher Peter Corkill has been told today, as it sat for the second day at Douglas Courthouse. The 46-year-old Ballasalla man was found dead in his cell at the Isle of Man prison on the 24th of February 2023. The Department of Infrastructure has apologised for any inconvenience caused after emulsion applied on Laxey Promenade last week bled across the road's surface. Workers undertook jet patching along the stretch on Wednesday. And there was no extended Tour de France history today for Mark Cavendish, as he just missed out on a shot at a 36th stage win at the event this afternoon. The Max missile was in contention in the closing stages of stage 16, heading towards the finish, but dropped away from the final sprint with less than a kilometre to go to finish 17th. Further afield, Vaughan Gething insists he's proud of his actions as First Minister of Wales, despite his decision to stand down. This morning, 4 members of his government resigned in protest over his leadership. Police say they believe 6 people found dead at a luxury hotel in Bangkok died from poisoning. 2 of the victims are Vietnamese Americans and 4 Vietnamese nationals. And Jack Black has cancelled the rest of his Australian tour with Tenacious D and says all future creative plans with the group are on hold. On Sunday, his band partner Kyle Gass made a joke up during their show about the assassination attempt against former US President Donald Trump. They're your headlines. I'll be back with your news at 6.
Thanks very much, Siobhan. Now the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. Not too bad, actually. Staying dry this evening and tonight. Variable amounts of cloud. There will be clear spells. Light, occasionally moderate at first northwest winds. They'll slowly back southwest overnight with minimum temperatures around 12 Celsius. Tomorrow, dry with sunny spells. Light, mainly south or southwest winds. And temperatures up to a balmy 18 Celsius. On Thursday, it's going to be a little bit cloudy and the risk of rain at times, but still temperatures of around 17. Sunset this evening, 9:41. Sunrise tomorrow morning, 8 minutes past 5.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
If you run a small business or just need more room in the back, Philshaw Vehicles has the perfect van or light commercial for all your needs and can sort out any finance. Based in the Tremode Estate, view philshawvehicles.im or call 49 51 49.
Your business can grow its market share 4 times faster. Be heard by over 43,000 island adults over 13 weeks. Call us on 682 600. Manx Radio is proud to support Manx businesses and communities.
SMS Trading, new and second-hand furniture, from flat pack to fully built. See our range at Unit 24, Gladstone Park, Ramsey. All island delivery and man in a van service available. Call SMS Trading on 315 151 or find SMS Trading on Facebook.
Visit Ramsey Craft Centre at Church Walk St Paul Square for beautiful yarns, fabrics, buttons, craft kits, patterns, in fact all you need for your craft works. Open Monday to Saturday. Visit Ramsey Craft Centre St Paul Square or find us on Facebook for opening times, news and offers.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
It's coming up to 5:05. An internal investigation into the death of a serving prisoner in 2023 has found that staff could not have foreseen he was going to take his own life. That's what the jury at the inquest of Christopher Peter Corkill has been told today as it sat for the second day at Douglas Courthouse. Well, our news editor Tessa Hawley was there, and before we hear from Tessa, I just want to remind you that this story will contain information some listeners may find upsetting. Tessa, then, what can you tell us about the investigation you heard about today?
So it was requested back in 2023 by the prison governor following Mr Corkill's death, and the Ballastalla man was found dead in his cell on the morning of the 24th of February that year. The governor wanted to establish the facts of the death in custody and asked a member of the probation service, a lady named Karen Wagstaff, to produce a report, and it was that report which was read to the jury today.
And what did Mrs Wagstaff find?
Well, she interviewed members of staff and a number of prisoners about Mr Corkill. She found that whilst he was no stranger to the prison environment, there were no active concerns around his mental health at the time. Records showed he had been under Folder 5 observations in 2021 and again in July 2022, but there were no live issues over self-harm or suicide. And her review found that without exception, no one had reported anything of note before his death. She also noted the overwhelming sense of shock in the prison following Mr Corkill's death, saying some prison officers had questioned whether they could have foreseen anything like this happening, but she found they couldn't have done and they'd all acted in good faith.
So the jury also heard from a serving prisoner today, one of Mr Corkill's friends.
That's right. He said he'd known Mr Corkill, who he called Peanuts, for around 24 years, and the two were on the same wing. He believed he was the last person to speak to him before they were both locked up for the evening on the 23rd of February. His friend told the court Mr Corkill had had his moments with his mental health during his time in prison, but he was his normal self earlier that day, adding he just looked a bit down. And he also told jurors, "I don't think the jail is to blame for this one. It was completely out of the blue. My opinion was that he was just sick of that revolving door."
So what happens next, Tessa?
So the jury will return to Douglas Courthouse tomorrow morning, where they'll continue to hear evidence in this inquest. Once that process has finished, they'll be asked to retire to consider their verdict and their findings.
Tessa Hawley, thank you. You're listening to Update on Manx Radio FM, 7 minutes past 5. Tynwald for this month is underway, and during the sitting this morning, Treasury confirmed it's costing the steam packet company £14,272 a month to use the new ferry terminal in Liverpool, while talks over a longer-term lease continue. The Minister, Alex Allinson, faced questions about the arrangement from Douglas Central MHK, Chris Thomas.
After the licence agreement concludes, a lease will be agreed between the steam packet company and the Department of Infrastructure, setting an appropriate rent for the facility. As stated in my response to the Honourable Member's previous question on the subject, the total annual cost of using the previous Liverpool landing stage was £737,000 per annum. If the cost of rent and rates costs is removed for comparison, this amounts to £580,000 per annum, or £48,333 per month.
Can the Minister explain why this is just a peppercorn rent compared to the £737,000 that was previously paid, including rates, of course, £580,000 excluding rates?
In a previous question to this Honourable Court on the 21st of May, I did actually point out that lease negotiations between the Department of Infrastructure and the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company are continuing. These are commercial negotiations between the two bodies, and a final agreed figure has not been agreed yet. Treasury are aware that there have been some challenges, as one would expect in any commercial negotiation, and are working with both parties to help reach a mutually acceptable conclusion. That work continues.
So, just to be clear, can the Minister confirm then this is a commercial negotiation between the Treasury's Steam Packet Company and the Department of Infrastructure? Secondly, will anybody else contribute to the costs of the Isle of Man Ferry Terminal other than the Steam Packet Company? I know that the valuation that was produced, that was substantially more than £14,000 a month, included other sources of income as well as landing charges for the steam packet.
I can confirm that these are commercial negotiations. In terms of other contributors, there are some options, obviously, to use the facility on a rental basis for various events. And certainly, I think, as the facility becomes more established and more part of the Liverpool skyline, that these options will be pursued.
That's the Treasury Minister, Dr Alex Allinson, and also Douglas Central MHK, Chris Thomas. Well, something else that happened in Tynwald today was that it approved the Education Minister's response to the findings of an independent review of funding for schools. 4 of the 5 recommendations set out have prompted the department to conduct a review, though, which Arbury, Castletown and Maloo MHK Tim Glover does not think goes far enough.
Reviews without set dates as to when those reviews are going to be actually actions and reports. They're not results. And the public, I think, are just hearing about reviews and reports. They aren't results. So I want to know exactly, particularly with the AEN review, when that is going to be undertaken. Because if you look at the recommendations, lack of funding and expertise to meet learners' needs with mainstream provision, lack of capacity and facilities within specialist provision centres, and a lack of clarity around the current diagnosis and funding process. To me, we are failing these children. So I want to know when, and we've been asking for this since, well before I was elected and in this honourable court, when are we actually going to see the additional educational need review looked at and actually actioned? Talked about it for too long now. We need actions. We are failing these children.
That's Tim Glover, MHK. In response, Minister Daphne Kane said her department was committed to delivering the best possible education system for children. 5:10 now. Let's turn our attention to business, and Isle of Man Maritime is hosting its third ever Maritime Expo this weekend, and it really hopes to highlight the importance of the industry here on the Isle of Man. Representatives from various organisations will be at the Villa Marina on Saturday between 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. to answer questions, and there'll also be a conference at the Comus Hotel on Friday. Captain Lee Clark told Lewis Foster what guests can expect.
On the Saturday, we're extremely lucky to have Carnival UK, which is one of the biggest cruise brands around the world, coming to the island. We've got the Royal Navy. This year, for the first time, we've got the Royal Fleet Auxiliary coming to the island, recruiting for cadetships, apprenticeships, really a lot. So we've got over 24 stallholders giving advice. First of all, it's an expo. So if you're interested in maritime or don't even know what maritime is, we're inviting you to come and have a conversation, and it could lead to a whole bunch of things, including sort of ship repair. We're very lucky to have the Ramsey shipyard coming this year. So you can really delve into things that are ship and ashore. So there'll be companies like Zurich, Ocean Web, Dula Yachts. If you don't know what maritime is, come and have that conversation.
Getting all those representatives over to the island, why is it worth it? What do you get from it?
Well, not many people know this, but maritime, we're sort of estimating as the third largest industry on the island. We are globally known as the maritime centre of excellence, not just because of our cluster organisation, because we have a lot of big maritime names here, but also because of our ship registry. The ship registry is celebrating its 40th anniversary this year, and we really want to highlight that the island, not just from the RNLI that's 200 all the way through to what we're doing today, we're trying to emphasise that maritime is here, it's bigger and better than ever, we're known globally. Why shouldn't we have this maritime conference, bring in the experts to give that trend, what's happening in maritime right now, to also the expo giving Manx youth the ability to actually get involved in maritime. One of our biggest problems is that for the last couple of years, maritime's sort of not been known. Isle of Man Maritime was formed to really drive that forward and say from ship to shore, there's careers in maritime, but also we're known as that maritime centre of excellence.
That is Captain Lee Clark talking to Lewis there. You can find out much more at manxradio.com. Just a reminder, the Villa Marina on Saturday between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. if you want to have any questions answered, and there's also that conference at the Comus on Friday. Now, the stock market report brought to you by Ramsey Crookall, and UK and European stocks closed lower as investors assess the economic and political outlook in the region and beyond. The dollar inched away from 5-week lows as investors weighed the case for a September rate cut. That was after comments by Fed Chair Jerome Powell, and they also pondered rising odds for the re-election of the former US President Donald Trump. Gold prices rose as comments from the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell bolstered that case for a September rate cut, while investors awaited more US economic data for further monetary policy cues. Gold at the close stood up 1.73% at $2,463. Oil prices dipped, though. That was on worries of a slowing Chinese economy and lowering demand. And despite that growing consensus that there will be an interest rate cut as soon as September, Brent crude stands at off 1.2% at $83.85. The FTSE 100 at the close was off 0.22% at 8,164. The latest from the Dow Jones, it was up 1.49% a little while ago at 40,810. And the Nasdaq a short while ago was off 0.01% at 18,471.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
3:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
Oh.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
So OK down at the steam packet and the airport pretty much this evening. The main issue is, again, those of you travelling through Onchan this week. That's because of the resurfacing. The main road through the village is one way. That's for traffic heading in a northbound direction. The road is closed to southbound traffic. That's those heading towards Douglas between the post office and Corkles roundabout. So for Douglas bound traffic, there are signed diversions in place. Corkles Garage Forecourt is accessible to traffic from the direction of Douglas only, but access to the parade of shops opposite Corkles is available from Summer Hill Road only, and there's also a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit throughout the works as well. Something else to look out for that's new today is at the Victoria Road Alexandra Road junction in Douglas. There are some emergency traffic lights 24 hours a day. That's for emergency gas repairs. And I just want to flag something happening tomorrow, again sort of affecting the Onchan area. There's a closure on the Lonnon to Onchan Coast Road. It'll be shut between School Road in Lonnon and Begode Road in Onchan from 9:30 tomorrow for up to 2 or 3 hours. No traffic will be permitted, but there will be access to properties, although it might be a little bit delayed. Scheduled buses will be marshalled through. And in Ramsey tomorrow and Friday, the swing bridge will be closed to all pedestrians and vehicles. That'll be from 9 a.m. for 4:30, and that is for repairs to the bridge's swing mechanism.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with Quayside. You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
It's 17 minutes past 5. We're going to stay with the theme of roads because the Department of Infrastructure has apologised for any inconvenience caused after emulsion applied on Laxey Promenade last week bled along the road's surface. Siobhan Fletcher joins me now with more details. So Siobhan, first of all, what do we know about this?
Well, Beth, workers undertook jet patching along the stretch last Wednesday. That basically involves the high-pressure surface injection of liquid emulsion and small aggregate chippings into potholes. This is followed by a final coat of dry chippings to help prevent the wet emulsion from sticking to tyres and shoes. The DOI says that it's a proven process that is quick and cost-effective with minimal disruption to road users.
So what seemed to be the problem then?
Well, some people took to social media last week to complain about what they call wet pools of bitumen left along the length of the promenade following the work. Comments included those who did indeed see their shoes ruined and those whose pets were left with the material on their paws.
So the DOI has responded to this?
Yes, so in a statement, the DOI says the only way to limit emulsion bleeding would have been to close the road to all users while the repairs were carried out. But they say this would have covered the full length of the promenade. Decision was not taken not to do so in order to minimise disruption for residents, visitors and businesses alike. They added that workers responded quickly to concerns raised by local business regarding emulsion being carried into their premises, and they cleaned it up straight away. A photograph taken on the prom yesterday does show the road is now in good condition.
And do we think this could have been prevented?
Well, that's somewhat unclear. The DOI does say that emulsion bleeding can occasionally happen and it's caused by excessive moisture in the cracked surface or rainfall during the process. Now, the work in Laxey was undertaken on Wednesday the 10th of July in wet conditions. Photos taken on the day show a lot of standing water and rain coming down. You can see that in our story on this at Manx Radio's website. Elsewhere, the department postponed all surface dressing work planned for the day due to those prevailing damp conditions. So we asked for further clarification as to why the work in Laxey was not also postponed. They said surface dressing is a programme that takes place in the summer as it must be dry. It's a different process to jet patching, which takes place all year round.
Siobhan, thank you very much. As she said, more details at manxradio.com. Coming up to 5:20. Something else that was discussed in Tynwald today was the fact that pouring taxpayer money into aiding a private developer to build luxury flats in Port Erin would generate a positive return on investment. Now, that is according to the Enterprise Minister Tim Johnston, who thinks the Island Infrastructure Scheme will create more jobs and higher employment as well. But the Speaker, Jim Watterson, questioned if that was at odds with unemployment data.
The fact that the development proposal has been brought forward as a direct result of this scheme is good news. Many of the sites have been subject to applications, have laid vacant for many years and in some cases decades. I appreciate that a scheme which provides funding to developers is a new concept for the island. However, we are not alone as a government in supporting urban regeneration in this way. Financial support is a vital component.
Now, one of the benefits that the Minister has outlined is about employment, but with unemployment at 0.6% and more construction vacancies than unemployed, is he not concerned about fueling wage spirals and higher house prices by directing money in this way, actually damaging the economy?
We have to look at the whole economy in the round and what we're trying to do in the principles behind this scheme, and very much underpinning our economic strategy of ensuring that through the Island Plan, as we look to increase our working age population, we recognise that we do need certain levels of infrastructure to support that future. And this scheme is very much about supporting the future needs and making sure that we have the infrastructure in place that families, that working people want to see, and making sure that we've got efficient, modern offices. It speaks to our visitor strategy, the importance of increasing our visitor accommodation, and of course, also the big issue around residential development.
There are lots of unoccupied local authority houses around Douglas that are empty. Would that money not have just as much benefit to our economy, but also social benefit by being used there? The Minister also mentioned the objective assessment of housing need, but I couldn't admittedly find, and perhaps the Minister could point me to, where the increased requirement for luxury of flats appeared in the priorities for the objective assessment of housing need.
We need all types of accommodation on the island. We need the full broad range of accommodation. Absolutely, we need to see affordable housing built, and there are parts of government that are working on that principle. That is not a job for the Department for Enterprise and the Island Infrastructure Scheme. It's very specific in its reach.
That's the Enterprise Minister Tim Johnston and also Speaker of the House of Keys, Jim Watterson. 5:21 now. Yes, thank you, Rob. Just laughing at me there for the slightly unusual pronunciation of Keys. Just want to tell you that in 1900, on this day, a production opened at the Gaiety Theatre in Douglas. It was called The Telephone Girl and starred Miss Ada Blanche and her company. And it was actually the first ever production inside that theatre, which had been redesigned and built by Frank Matcham. Here's John Moss.
That was 124 years ago today, but we so nearly lost this architectural gem. In the 1970s, it was threatened with demolition until a group of enthusiasts came to its rescue. Foremost was Mervyn Stokes, general manager.
The theatre presented a challenge. It was beautiful, it was in a ruinous state, and something had to be done, because when I first came here, the owners of the theatre had applied to demolish it. Frank Matcham built in his lifetime, and we can't be sure because new evidence is coming alive all the time, approximately 300 theatres. Of those 300 theatres, only 24 remain. And of those 24, this is the only one with everything that Matcham left behind. Seamus and I, got to know Brian Matcham, who was Frank Matcham's great nephew. And he came over to visit us, and we brought him in here with the lights off, and we put the lights up and said, "What do you think?" And there was a horrible, horrible silence, and we thought, oh gosh, we've got it all wrong. And he turned around and he said, "Thank you. If my great uncle came in today, he would recognise everything. You've done it just right."
Amongst those who had admired the theatre was Andrew Lloyd Webber, who used a 2-hour break while flying across from Ireland to visit it. He was shown round by Seamus Shea.
I did ask him, had he any product that he would like to try out on the island pre-West End, and he sort of gave me a wry smile as if to say it's probably not big enough a venue for some of his shows.
That's Seamus Shea there. Happy birthday to the Gaiety Theatre. It is 5:24, and for Isle of Man pro golfer Tom Gandy, it's been another challenging season so far as he aims to make an impression in the remaining months of the campaign. He's told us his passion for the game, though, is still very much there, and he hopes a positive mindset can help him drive forward in the coming weeks.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, yeah, last time we spoke, that was an objective of mine. I was caught up in the struggle and the frustration and what have you, whereas now I feel like, that may be the key, the psychological side of it more than the technical side or anything like that. It's an ongoing thing. It's been a little while for me since I played my best stuff, but with the help of working with Rich Still down at Isle of Man Sport, he's been great with us on the psychological side of things and trying to implement a couple of little tweaks here and there. It's nothing wholesale, it's nothing massive, but the root of it all is going to come from enjoying it. That's when I play my best golf. So I'm very close. I feel like for large parts I am. It's frustrating to put so much time, effort and stuff in and get very little reward. But as I say, that's the nature of golf. It's a tricky game we play, but yeah, why not? Looking forward to the challenge the rest of the season.
And not just the quality of competition, but the quantity as well. I mean, how have you found it in terms of just trying to get a bit of a rhythm?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been nice being active. We spend a lot of time kind of inactive over the winter months, so it's been good playing most weeks. I'm only really playing in the UK this season, but there's still quite a lot of travel involved, really, with like the nature of the tournaments are kind of Monday to Thursday. Still juggling that a little, but yeah, it's great. It's what I love doing. I love being out there. I love trying to get the most out of myself.
Looking forward to the short to medium term, what competitions, objectives have you got in mind?
So there's still more than half of the season left to go. End of season goal would be to try and get back to competing on the Challenge Tour. The main thing is it feels like is trying to turn that corner, get some momentum going and get some confidence and positive momentum heading into at least Q School.
That is the golfer Tom Gandy there. Now, speaking of sport, we're joined by the sports editor Rob Pritchard. And first of all, I mean, disappointing for Cav.
Yes, faster my Beth. Yes, we'll start with cycling. And there was no extended Tour de France history today for Mark Cavendish, as he just missed out on a shot at a 36 stage win at the event this afternoon. The Manx missile was in contention in the closing stages of stage 16, heading towards the finish in Nîmes, but dropped away from the final sprint with less than a kilometre to go to finish 17th overall. I mean, today was expected to be Cavendish's last chance to add to his Tour stage win record of 35, with the remaining 5 stages covering mountainous routes and finishing with a time trial from Monaco to Nice. Well, no matter what happens now, though, he will finish what is expected to be his final Tour de France campaign as its greatest stage win of all time, having beaten the previous record of 34 set by cycling legend Eddie Merckx back on stage 5 on the 3rd of July. Well, elsewhere in athletics, Isle of Man athlete Dawn Atherton is set to represent England next month. The Western AC competitor has been selected in the England team for the Masters 5K representative race against Wales in Kingsley, Cheshire on the 23rd of August. Atherton will be one of 4 runners in the F40 class alongside Nicola Evans, Lucy Wasinski and Nadine Weeks. In total, 56 individuals will represent the nation across all the age categories. Well, along with the announcement, England Athletics Masters road running coordinator Chris Hollinshead says there will be a number of athletes making their debut and is wishing the whole team the best of luck. And finally, in motorsport, Flitwick Motorcycles has announced a 3-rider lineup to take on this year's Manx Grand Prix. The Bedfordshire-based team will field Manxman Joe Yeardsley, along with Adam McLean and Lancelot Unisart at next month's meeting on the Snaefell Mountain Course. Yeardsley and McLean will be on board the 500cc Royal Enfield machines in the Classic Senior race, whilst McLean and Unisart will be involved in the reintroduced Classic Junior event on a 350cc Honda and a 350cc Ducati, respectively. Well, having won the Senior MGP race last year, it'll be Yeardsley's debut in the Classic Senior, whilst Northern Irishman McLean managed a 5th place finish in that category in 2023. The 2024 Manx Grand Prix is due to take place from the 18th to the 26th of August.
Rob, thank you very much. Was there a lot of shouting downstairs while you're watching the end of the stage?
I was indeed. I was
imagine.
Indeed. Tense right to the end.
It certainly was. That is all from Update this evening. Thank you so much for your company. Coming up next this evening, an Island Live special with Dave Moore, Manx Memories of Italia 90. Gosh, can you remember that? That'll be followed by Greatest Hits with Chris Kinley. Have a great evening.